Hey there, Jeff here with another episode of Feedback Matters, the YouTube channel of database sciences and our web-based feedback survey services, Guest Insight for the hospitality industry, and Listen Keenly for small businesses in a wide array of industries. If you've watched some of our other videos, particularly the ones focused on guest and customer loyalty, you know that our metric, the Fan Value Score, helps our clients understand how loyal each of their guests or customers is, as well as see trends in overall loyalty over time. Of course, we're not the only company who has developed a loyalty measuring model like this. In fact, the one that has the most widespread use on the enterprise level is called Net Promoter Score. In today's video, I'm going to take a look at the NPS methodology, as well as highlight some differences between it and our Fan Value Score. For the record, I've been involved in survey design for a long time, going back to the mid-80s, from before Net Promoter was a thing, from before the web was a thing, and so I've seen a lot of both good and bad survey and question design in those 30 plus years. I've given talks on it, I've moderated panels on it. At the end of the day, I have pretty strong opinions based on what I've seen work and not work over all those years in surveys. So where do I stand on Net Promoter Score? I love the idea of Net Promoter Score, which is a metric that's based on the answer to a simple single question, and its developers put it out there as the one loyalty measure that any business needs to know about their operation to understand their future success. I love the idea of distilling loyalty and business success down to the answer to one question, because in all my years of studying consumer behavior, I've seen way more instances of the exact opposite approach. Researchers overcomplicating things, creating surveys that are long and cumbersome tasks for consumers, and therefore showing absolutely no respect for their time. Unfortunately, however, the reality is that the promise of Net Promoter Score is very flawed, and just too good to be true. So let's dig into what they're doing at Net Promoter Score. As I mentioned earlier, you see a lot of big companies using it. I'm sure you've seen it somewhere. You get an email after something you purchased or somewhere you visited, like a hotel or restaurant, with the following question. How likely is it that you would recommend the hotel, the restaurant, brand to a friend or colleague? And then you're presented with this scale to choose your answer from. All right, let's start with the wording of the question. What exactly does it mean? Do they want to know how likely am I to recommend the business, meaning am I going to go out of my way to recommend it? So this actually has taken on new meaning since the rise in popularity of social media and online reviews since Net Promoter Score came into being in the early 2000s. Or, more likely, is the meaning this. If someone asks me, how likely am I to recommend the business? Which, if you think about it, is also curious because at this point, since my experience with this company or brand or hotel or restaurant has been completed, I should be able to answer yes, I would recommend, or no, I would not recommend, rather than likely or unlikely. I have all the information I'm going to get about whether or not they're worthy of a recommendation. Why wouldn't I know at this point definitively? By comparison, in our Fan Value Score, willingness to recommend is certainly an important component of understanding loyalty, although we believe it's not the only one. You can see how we look at it in some of our other loyalty videos. But we view willingness to recommend as a binary choice. Again, you have all the information you need and are going to get based on your experience with this brand or restaurant or hotel, so you should be able to directly answer whether you are or are not willing to recommend it. Now let's look about the answer choices we have. Net Promoter Score makes matters even more convoluted by using an 11-point scale, which is too big in our opinion, as well as in the opinion of many others in the consumer opinion research space. Google it. An 11-point scale leaves too much leeway in the personal calculus of scoring. I could be a tougher grader than you. My 6 could easily be what you consider a 7. Is this a big deal? It is, especially because of the way the actual calculation of Net Promoter Score is done. You see, the metric relies on a simple subtraction of people they call detractors from people they call promoters. They define promoters of a company or brand as people who will answer 9 or 10 on that likelihood scale, and detractors as anyone who falls below 7. The difference between 6 and 7, therefore, is super important, as is 8 or 9 for that matter. In the 30 plus years that I've been dealing with consumer surveying, I've always been partial to a smaller scale, most often 5 points. As a clear, middle, or neutral point, and then a best choice, a worst choice, and then one gradation in between. And 5-point scales and ratings have evolved to become sort of a standard in the review-driven economy we now live in. We're used to seeing it in places like Google Reviews, Amazon, TripAdvisor, Yelp, Uber, and Lyft. So getting back to Net Promoter Score methodology. After you've answered this one question, you'll often be asked to provide some comments about why you answered the way you did. In fact, this is probably the most useful part of the data that Net Promoter Score collects. There are text analytic tools now available that can make more sense of the scoring variability and perhaps even clean up the data based on that. Of course, these tools didn't exist when Net Promoter Score was born, so we really can't give them a pass here on the flawed design of the question and answer choices. And so that's it for the NPS data collection and calculation model. Companies can track their NPS over time to see and react to trends. And it definitely provides some value. If it didn't, it wouldn't still be in use. That said, we feel that in addition to the flaws in its execution, Net Promoter Score is an incomplete measure of loyalty for another reason. It ignores a key behavior of loyalty, being a repeat customer. Net Promoter Score never asks guests or customers whether they're willing to come back, in the case of hotels or restaurants, or buy a product or use a service again. Our 13+ years of data shows that guests and customers are sometimes willing to recommend a business, but unlikely to return for a variety of reasons. So that's the quick dive into Net Promoter Score. Does it provide some insight into guest or customer loyalty? Sure. Are there better models and methods to understand loyalty in your business? Absolutely. Thanks for watching today. Feel free to reach out in the comments with any questions. If you like this video and are interested in all things related to feedback, guest and customer experience, please consider subscribing to our channel. Feedback Matters.